Hello and welcome. I am Cyril Stober. It's a digital world we live in with unimaginable advancements in science and technology, new technologies from social media and GPS systems to artificial intelligence and smart homes, all combine to present a new world that is moving at dizzying speeds. But with these awesome innovations and possibilities come threats, and real threats to the drivable benefits of such advancements. The issues of the digital world are numerous, among them cybersecurity, which will engage our attention as I sit with my guest today, whose interests are in cybersecurity, user privacy, and digital forensics. Aisha Ali Gombe is an associate professor of computer science and engineering at the Louisiana State University in the United States of America. She took a bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of Abuja, MBA from Bayero University, Kano, master's in computer science, University of New Orleans in the USA, and a PhD in engineering and applied sciences, also from the University of New Orleans in the USA. Now, the Louisiana State University, where she lectures, has been granted $1.5 million by the United States National Security Agency, NSA, to set up a pilot cybersecurity clinic to protect small businesses that are targets of cyber attacks. She has been selected as the director of the new cybersecurity clinic. Let's welcome Associate Professor Aisha Ali Gombe. Thanks for coming on One-on-One.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your show.
Right, we should say congratulations on that. You've been selected to be the director of this cybersecurity clinic. It's not a mean achievement by any standards. And how does it make you feel going out there, a Nigerian?
So I just recently moved to Louisiana State University, and like every faculty, our job is to do research, bring in grants, and teach and engage in community service. And for me, in this second leg of my career, my goal has been to engage a lot in student focus as well as the community around us. And so when NSA put out an RFP for a cybersecurity, they call it Education Innovation Initiative, and I saw a focus in cybersecurity clinic model, so I thought this is something that I could build the next leg of my career in. So I'm super excited that our grant was selected, and we were awarded this $1.5 million, and we're going to start the clinic in the fall, which I'll be directing. So it's really an overwhelming joy, I will tell you, that we're going to make a difference in Louisiana. And I'm hoping that this model for the clinic is going to be, established everywhere within the global world.
Some would say it's just like yesterday that you were at the University of Abuja here in Nigeria, and no one at that time could have felt, well, this is coming somewhere along the line, and you just went on and moved to the United States, and everyone around here is celebrating you, including your alma mater, the University of Abuja, and saying, well, it does show that anyone can go out there and prove their mettle, especially a Nigerian, to do that. Does that give you a sense of fulfillment, given your background?
Yeah, absolutely. I could tell you, like, when the story was published by my university, it is the story of any other grant. Because every university in the United States is excited to have a grant. But the reception in Nigeria was overwhelming. I think at the beginning it was really very overwhelming. But at some point, I think from what I've read, from the emails I've received, from just thousands of comments that I've seen on different social media platforms, private and public, I think I became a story of a young Nigerian woman from sub-Saharan Africa who, believed in education and inspire others. So my story is just a story of somebody who really loves education and just went out there to, pursue that. And in that, I never thought I could really inspire other people to, see me in that room. And I think it brought a great sense of satisfaction to be that person that, I think making a difference to other people's lives.
All right, let's come to this digital age we live in. And we seem to be almost 100% reliant on gadgets, computers, smartphones. Now we are into smart homes as well. But as we said in our introduction, these present some huge challenges.
Absolutely.
Now, with a world that relies so much on data,
yes,
anything can happen.
Yes.
And that brings us into the question of cybersecurity. Now, define for us what cybersecurity entails.
So cybersecurity is pretty much just a discipline that brings in different applications and processes that tries to prevent, protect, and detect any kind of cyber attack. And that could mean, cyber attack on end users, cyber attack on organization infrastructures, or even nation state. Now, as you mentioned, we are in a digital age, and with everything being smart, we are even increasing the attack surface. So more than ever, this is a time where we're not only going to be concentrating on developing means and techniques of protecting the infrastructure, but also sensitizing people on the importance of cybersecurity. And this is one of the goals of our clinic. We want to engage with small businesses, not to only tell them this is what you need to do, these are the best practices, these are, the new software that you should install, this is how you should do things. But we also want to do capacity building. We want to be able to train them. We want to be able to improve their cyber hygiene. We want them to understand what is cybersecurity and how that affects their businesses and how that, make or break their business. Cybersecurity is here to stay as long as technology stays, and we know technology is not slowing down anytime soon. So for us, in cybersecurity, we are always thinking of developing new capabilities that deals with new attacks that are brought in by new technologies and new devices. So that's kind of in brief what is cybersecurity.
Okay, but with this going on, you begin to worry about the development of new capabilities, software, and the fact that some say, well, the more you develop these softwares, the more you attract the attention of hackers, cyber criminals who are also looking out, and at the damage that can be done, especially in the financial world, is huge. Just about everything relies on safe data. And so at some point the worry is, would the world not be exposing itself unduly to something that might in the long run destroy it?
I don't think this is necessarily the case. See, technology has brought in so many good things. Today, I can talk to my family all the way from the United States without having to come here. I can do video calls with my family. And so that's all thanks to technology. We've sent people to, the space, and, we've done so many things thanks to technology. So I don't think technology is going to slow anytime soon. And not just software, even in, hardware innovation, we have moved, so many years ahead in terms of like developing new chips and new capabilities. So it's not going to stop anytime soon. And when we look at, the advantage of what technology brought in, we cannot just say because of cyber attack we have to slow down. And now even with AI, we're seeing, how machine can be able to predict what we can do next and what have you. So technology is not going to slow down. I think it's a good thing. Now, with cybersecurity, I think at the beginning, because I'm primarily a programmer, because I'm a computer scientist, and so we programmers, we're always thinking about how to move things forward, how to develop the next thing. But security was not necessarily, a focus in a lot of software design. But now, given all of the issues that we have in cybersecurity, we're doing a lot of security-focused software development. We're trying to incorporate security by design from the beginning, and even in terms of like configuration, system configuration, we're trying to increase, or improve cybersecurity as we design our systems in general, networking system protocols, databases, whatnot. So security is not a focus. So I don't think we'll say that, okay, technology is improving in cyber attack. Obviously, it may or may not improve, it may not increase, but we will have better ways to tackle that.
Right.
And I think, yeah.
Speaking about a rise in the rate of cyber crimes, and what are the current statistics saying?
So I can give you that for small businesses, for instance. Almost like 50% of the entire cyber attack today are on small businesses, okay? And 13% of that, they're pretty much like ransomware, which means an attacker could install a software on your system and then encrypt your device or your files and then ask you for a ransom. And then you have to pay some certain amount of money, especially now that we have, Bitcoin technology. So you have to pay in cryptocurrency, and then you get a decryption key to decrypt your files. So it is something that is so significant. And a lot of times we have situations where people don't even report cases of cyber attack, because oftentimes there's a lot of reputational damage that comes with, having media publicizing that there's a cyber attack. And I can tell you that in the United States, for instance, most of cyber attacks that we hear in the media, that happens in bigger corporations. Mm-hmm. But those that happens like, for small businesses and even, just end users, you don't hear that a lot. So there are so many varying statistics in, the gravity, but it is there. And I'm sure, for just an average person, we have received uncountable number of phishing emails, whether, directly in our emails or sometimes even through social media. Like somebody may send you something on WhatsApp and then you click it and then you're...
you see, so that's part of the issues we're looking at,
right.
Because, something seems so harmless. And to me, for instance, I just click, and the
right.
next thing, my details, everything gone. Sometimes even, financial.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So this is where the sensitization needs to come into play. We have to make sure that everybody understand the risk of cyber attack. It doesn't matter like what's your profession. It doesn't matter, where you work. It doesn't matter what you do. Kids, male, female, everybody needs to understand the risk of cyber attack. We need to understand things that are red flag. We need to understand, if somebody sent something to us, how do we verify that this is that person? So there are technologies that helps us vet and, identify that this looks fishy. And sometimes we have to use our common senses to understand that this doesn't smell good, and then we should not really click on it.
In the financial systems, for instance, sometimes just an everyday user sees a mail or something coming and they imagine that it's coming from their banks. It looks very much the same. And for many who are not considered to be having any form of expertise in these matters, they just think, well, this is from my financial institution asking for these details, and just innocently click. that's it. Now, for the others, you just plug in something and then your whole device is corrupted. These days, there are warnings going around that people should minimize their logging onto public internet facilities for fear of, in fact, there are some who say you plug in your phone in some places, you also risk your details being stolen.
Right. Yeah, so all of this happens actually, these are all different types of attacks. So, for instance, when you receive something, usually the attackers, they use kind of a mind game. That's kind of part of social engineering attack, because, for instance, if they're going to hack you, they want to pretend to be your bank. They could have a logo from GTB, for instance. They could use a domain name that looks like GTB, but maybe with small little changes that you may not likely even identify that that's not coming from GTB. And they may take text from GTB actual's email and just plug in somewhere. So you may think that's coming from a legitimate bank. So oftentimes we tell users that you have to vet very well. You have to look at the domain, you have to look at the content, you have to look at even the spelling, you have to look at capitalization, you have to look at so many things, even time of day. Does your bank often send you an email at that particular time of day? Does that look like your bank? Does your bank spell their name in cap locks? Does it, do they spell it like in small letters? All of these things are important. And when you talk about, for instance, you plugging in your device on a public Wi-Fi, for instance, a lot of times if you do not trust the Wi-Fi, and we could check things like the certificate, the type of protocol they're using. So all of this, if the user is not informed, they won't really understand what is the effect of that and how that at the end of the day is going to affect them in whether they may be attacked or not.
In other words, you must continue to remain one step ahead of those who might be criminals or who might be trying to do certain untoward things. But then you also have interests in forensics. Yes, and this we would like you to talk about.
So digital forensics pretty much is another offshoot of cybersecurity, if you will, because in most of universities in the United States and I think around the world, they're kind of seen as interlaced. So most students that are kind of digital forensics students are sort of computer science students and cybersecurity focused, but then they offshoot into forensics. So with forensics, the idea is we're going to try to extract digital evidence or evidences from digital devices. And oftentimes these evidences are evidences for cyber attack or evidences left during cybercrime. So again, we all have devices. We may be the one using the device, and there may be a criminal investigation, and the law enforcement are trying to extract some evidence from the device. Now that's where digital forensics comes into play. So my work in digital forensics pretty much is to try to come up with new tools and techniques that we can extract a lot of different digital evidences from smartphones and IoT devices. That's kind of my focus. And I've developed a couple of tools, mostly that uses memory forensics, so we can retrieve what we call data from the volatile memory, which is the transient memory that often kind of wipes out whenever you lose power. But there are other parts of digital forensics that could extract data from the non-volatile storage.
This is getting interesting to me, because what I'm looking at here is anyone safe? If you could still... I mean, it's been suggested that no matter what you do, we're all living prints out there.
Absolutely.
Which cannot, even when you delete, it is not completely eradicated or something like that. Doesn't that worry you? Because, again, such in the hands of hostile administrations who are not entirely democratic in certain actions might just be, well, Big Brother is spying.
Yeah, I can tell you as a person that is in between cybersecurity and forensics, this is where I've done so many research work in cybersecurity core, which is the protection, right? Prevention of somebody trying to get your information. And at this side, I've done some couple of work in digital forensic where I'm trying to extract remnant of information from your device. So I'm somewhere in between. I understand the privacy concern. I understand that, the big brother might be, kind of peeping into your device, which violate your privacy. And at the same time, I'm also trying to build tools where that protects your system. But I think when you look at it both ways, there are advantages. Disadvantages, right? The privacy violation, which is one of them. But in terms of advantages in cybersecurity, we will always, from that perspective, we'll always want to see devices that we can be able to prevent and protect. So we want to build in more functional security, more security that is robust, more security that we can rely on. So absolute security, which may not necessarily be the case, but we're trying to protect the device. But in forensics, every law enforcement officer will want a device that they can get remnant of information, because that's the only way we can get to the criminals. That's the only way we can know if somebody is trying to set up an attack. And maybe it could be terrorist attack, or it could be anything, right? This is how we can find somebody that is trying to harm other people. Maybe in the case of a lot of issues of child pornography, this is happening in a lot of countries. So this is how we can find evidences.
Okay, I'll come to that, the good sides of it, if you will, the short while. But I just would like to expand this a little further and ask, how, as an ordinary user, how circumspect should I be when I'm downloading stuff, apps that ask to grant access to things that are stored in my device? How circumspect should I be for clicking on that? And sometimes when you deny such access, you can't go any further.
Absolutely. So that's another offshoot of my work, which is in privacy. And I could tell you I'm a privacy advocate because I think every user should give an absolute authority over their device. So you have to authorize before somebody get access to anything. But it's unfortunate that a lot of applications, especially on smartphones, I will say, sort of violate our privacy. And so if you look at it, maybe if you use Android, I can give a case study with that. When Android started in 2007, I think, the kind of security model, we call it the permission model, it was kind of an all or none model. So you either allow all of the permissions and then install, or just like not allow and just, not install. And that was a very, very bad permission model. And I can tell you there have been so many research from the beginning to like 5 years up to 2012, a lot of research on like Android has to fix that kind of permission system, because you cannot force a user to, approve everything when the user does not necessarily want to approve everything. And, the researchers also found that most of these applications do not necessarily need all of those permissions. So we found them to be over-permissioned. And, so with that, I think there was a lot of pressure from the research community, and Android has to make a little bit of change. And they now had this one-time permission, which is what we have right now. So now you don't have to allow all of the permissions. You could allow permission as you go on. But even with that, sometimes it's not, you will think, it's not necessary that you have to have that permission. So for me, in my current research work that I'm doing, I'm trying to come up with a model that is called intent-aware permission model. So where a user first has to consent. So not only tell the user that I want to use this very specific permission, but for what purpose? Because oftentimes the user is oblivious of, why do you need my navigation data, right? The user doesn't really know. The apps just say, I want your location, but why? So that's what I wanted to answer. That's the kind of system that I'm trying to develop with my students, where the user sees the request for the permission and the why for the permission. And as an offshoot of that, if the data stays on the device or the data is sent to another server, and if it is sent to that server, can you as the user tell the developer that I am done with this, delete my data? How do we then have a verifiable data deletion where, I go to like NTA app and say, NTA, delete my data. I don't want you to have my data anymore. What is a mechanism that I can trust and you could trust, and we could be able to agree that you've deleted my data completely? So we're kind of working on that, and I'm so excited to see how that goes.
Now let's look at the other side of it. You've talked about using forensics to, gather evidence. And In countries like Nigeria, where you have administrations moving ahead, taking advantage of new systems to be able to forge ahead, for instance, in elections, using digital technologies to enhance the conduct of elections. And then we see highly advanced societies where there have been allegations of countries influencing the outcome of elections, using remote attacks.
Right.
But doesn't that give us the jitters of, if it could happen to those worlds,
Yes.
what might be the consequences for these parts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. This part of cyber is called like misinformation or disinformation, information integrity, and over the last, I think since 2016, it's been gaining ground. And I think I can tell you this for a fact that in the United States, it's one of the key areas of research. They're trying to come up with ways so we can identify misinformation and disinformation, and we should try to protect ways in which this misinformation, disinformation influences social activities like election per se. So I think in Nigeria, we have to. We are a very big country, a country of over 200 million people, and we're one country that have really accepted and adopted a lot of technology, and especially social media. We're very active. We have a very young population, and this kind of misinformation and disinformation can fly, I can tell you, very, very, very fast. So how can we checkmate that? How can we make sure that only the right information flows? How can we track the flow of information? How can we collaborate with, for instance, social media companies to come up with techniques that's going to help the country move forward as a democratic country, without being influenced by misinformation and disinformation.
Let me even take this further and relate it to my profession here. As you speak of misinformation and disinformation, it brings to mind the question of fake news, deep fakes.
Yes.
And technology has gone so far that you can take someone and make them say things that they never said in the first place.
Yes.
And these are moving at very at a very high rate. And we're not doing that much in this part of the world to nip this in the bud. What should be the steps for us to take on this?
Yeah, so this happens. In fact, you hear like your voice and you're not the person, right? So this is a very, very big problem. And I can tell you it's an evolving problem. I think the only way forward is really investing in research, investing in education. We have young population, people that are, I think technology very active, and if we can put them to good use, if we can invest in them in research, they will find solutions. People are working day in, day out on, developing new solutions that detect that this is a deep fake. They're detecting that this information is, not the right information. This information is there to mislead. As you just roll out any information, tools are out there that are trying to do those detection. But the problem is all of these tools are designed to understand, for instance, the news in those countries, the language of those countries, the very peculiar situation in those countries. We have to come up with our own local solutions by our own local people that understand our own, our uniqueness, our own situation, our own news, that follows our own news and, understand the trend and then be able to detect that, this is, for instance, not correct, not legitimate news, for instance, right? Or it's not, it's a deep fake, like, it's not serial that is speaking. So we have to come up with our own local solutions for that. I think we cannot do that without investing in our youth and investing in research.
All right. At this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, there'll be more as we talk about the digital world, cybersecurity. Stay with us. Why should we be in a difficult situation financially?
Once upon a time we were rich, but we're not a rich country anymore.
Disaster management is everybody's business.
In all these times, the organization turned to Nigeria.
We would as much want to harness the capacity that is within us so that we see how we can become self-reliant.
1 month ended and you said you are increasing warning strike by 2 months. I mean,
you're incubating madness.
Even if these are officials of government who have been told to go and enforce the law and they have gone against the law itself, they must be held accountable.
One-on-One, Friday, 10:30 p.m. on NTA Network. Thanks for staying with us. I'm still here with my guest, and we're talking about the digital world and cybersecurity. And just before the break, you mentioned something about investing more in education and research, and that's what I'd like us to talk about briefly, the place of education and research in all of this. It's not been a very good scorecard for Nigeria, particularly in terms of research and even the education system.
Yes. I'm a product of a Nigerian education. I think since I had my, I did my primary school education, secondary school education, and university education here. So I had my first degree and even my MBA from Bayer University, Kano. So I can tell you we're doing something good. You know, there is some baseline that we're doing that is good, but we need to do more. And I think where we need to do more is in terms of like research itself. We need to, of course, education, you know, teaching, we have to invest in that. You know, we have to go with the trend. We have to go with, you know, what's evolving right now. But we have to invest in research. And I think that's something that we don't do at all. We're just talking about the National Security Agency investing $1.5 million into LSU to build a clinic with a focus on experiential learning for LSU students and engaging small businesses in improving their cyber posture and cyber hygiene. This is a big investment on just one university in order to improve, you know, the activities of the community as well as improving education for their youths. So where are we in Nigeria in terms of that? In terms of bringing, you know, that kind of funding to universities so that universities can be able to do that. We have a lot of intellectuals. We have really great minds here, and I think all we have to do is to encourage them and invest in them.
I've spoken to quite a number of academics, and I don't want to go down the list of the challenges, the things that stand in their way when it comes to attracting grants or funding, and just about everything is government dependent.
Right.
And so research findings, there's a popular saying around here, as you well would know, some we are sitting in files and gathering dust. Where is the disconnect between research find the results and putting them and tailoring them to the needs of society?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just had a workshop in Gombe State University on grant writing just on last Tuesday. And one of the things that we talked about is research impact. So a lot of times with academics, we always, you know, think about publication because, of course, publication, you know, is what's going to get you tenure, it's what's going to get you promotion. But I think we have to also start to think beyond publication. Publication is great, you know, it's immortalize our work, which is absolutely fantastic. However, I think we have to also start to think what are those research objectives or research ideas that are going to make a lasting impact in our society. And, you know, I've challenged my colleagues here to always think about what are the problems that we have, our local problems, and what are the local solutions that we can come up with so we can solve our local problems. This is something that when I started my grad school in the United States, I see they're so different. They're always looking for ideas, you know, from National Science Foundation to NSA to DOD, they're always looking for ideas that solve their local problems, that solve problems within their society and problems that have broader impact within their society. This is where we need to start channeling our energy. What are our local problems and how do we solve this problem so that we can have a broader impact within our society? So again, there is the challenge from, you know, where to get the funding. Of course, it could be, you know, from corporations, it could be from the government, it could be international, but also what is the research itself and what type of impact will that research translate into? So those are the things that we have to start thinking about.
Why do you think we're not consulting with our educational institutions, our research institutes, in developing solutions to challenges that face the society here? We're mostly dependent on the World Bank, the IMF, building our financial systems and things like that. Why do we not look inwards?
So I think from my discussion at Gombe State University, I think I heard a lot of people now are looking into TED Fund to try to access research funds, so which is good. They're kind of trying to look at a local source of funding. I've also seen some people talked about accessing research fund from CBN, so which is also another local source of funding. But I think international funds is great because we might get even bigger fund, which can help solve, as long as we're solving our local problems, I think that's a great thing. I've not been here, a long time to kind of really understand the dynamics, but I think there are some local sources of funding. Maybe that's not a lot, but there's also the international source of funding, which I think they both can tap into and come up with some solutions.
See, I'm looking here at the situation where there's very little private sector interest.
Right.
In research and so many other things we do. I'm harping on this matter of research and
right.
education because you just said it's one of the keys to get ahead there.
Yeah, absolutely. So one other thing that I talked about and I kept emphasizing is the idea of trust. So I was telling the participants that nobody's going to give you money because of you. Nobody's going to give you money to make you rich. Like, that's not what grant is all about. You're going to get research funding so you could do an actual research and make a difference. And I think sometimes there's always that issue, and somebody was mentioning things about, working with some organization and, finding out that a university was blacklisted and whatnot. So why would a university be blacklisted? It is blacklisted because of that mistrust. We have to find a way to understand that research funding is there as a selfless, or research itself, it should be there as a selfless service. And if you want to engage in that, you're going to make sure that you're not there to become rich. You're there to make a difference, to create an impactful work, to develop solution to some real problems that is going to have a broader impact within the society. So trust is an important piece of research that a lot of times, even you may have a great proposal, you may have, your proposal has, great merit, but then they look at the potential of success and they look at trust and they say that, no, we're not going to fund you because we don't think you're going to do the work. So I think one thing we have to emphasize is that trust.
As you work with this cybersecurity clinic and try to develop solutions to cyber attacks against small businesses, which are the engine growth, what do you have in mind here that could be a fallout from your work that would be beneficial to a country like Nigeria?
Right. So, of course, I can't remember the proverb, but they say something, everything starts from home, right? I'm from Gombe, so obviously I've started working with Gombe State University in trying to improve their research. And that grant writing workshop was just one of them. So we're kind of working on different modalities so we can improve their research posture in general. And that it's not very specific to computer science. Mm-hmm. And I told them I'm open to helping them in different capacity. So that's one aspect. But the second aspect is this clinic, for instance, it's only designed for LSU students. Mm-hmm. So that means it's going to directly benefit LSU right. students and also the businesses that are registered in Louisiana. However, the model for the clinic is supposed to mimic medical clinics. So, like medical students, they have to go through preclinicals and then come through clinicals and learn to do an actual hands-on experience, right, before they graduate. So a couple of years ago, I think about 200 years ago or so, or 100 years ago, law school started adopting that kind of clinic model in their law education in the United States. So that means law students, they have to go through law clinic before they graduate so they can get that hands-on experience. So the idea is with cybersecurity clinic, we're piloting this project, and if it works, we want to adopt it in almost every school in the United States. So I think this is something that we could also borrow in Nigeria and adopt it so we can graduate students with highly skilled students that already have this experience even before they graduate. So I'm hoping that, some universities here, they may want to tap into that and adopt the model, even if it is not holistic, but, part of the model so they can improve their education.
Your first degree was in computer science right here at home.
Yes.
So that puts you in a position to see what it is like in terms of computer education. How well would you say Nigeria is doing towards this?
So I can tell you for a fact that there are areas that we were really good at, but there are areas that we need improvement. So for me as a computer scientist, there are two major things that I need to be very good at. One is mathematics, and the second one is programming. As an undergraduate student, for instance, we were very good at mathematics, and I could tell you, I was great in math, and when I went everything related to math, all my courses related to math, I was acing them even as a graduate student. But the programming component, we're not necessarily very good at that. So I think if in our education institution, this is somewhere for universities teaching computer science, this is an area where we need additional focus. We need to improve on.
What do you think we need to focus more on as a country that is in a hurry to develop? Or would we de-emphasize the humanities? I've always had this argument.
I don't necessarily think so. You see, for instance, I will tell you from the perspective of cybersecurity. Today, cybersecurity is really multidisciplinary, okay? So in this my current clinic setting, when I was bringing the team together, I had to look for people from the School of Business because I want to engage with small businesses. I don't know their language. I need people that understand the language of School of Business. And even with cyber, I understand defensive and offensive cyber, but I don't understand risk management. And I think this is an important component of cyber. So what did I do? I engaged with School of Business. And then at some point, we realized that if our students are going to go out and engage with small business, we need to indemnify them. So then naturally, we're going to pivot to also looking for somebody from the law school. So my team encompasses so many people from different units. And so this is true for a lot of different projects in cyber. I've seen projects that, bring in together computer scientists and psychologists, computer science with political scientists. We're just talking about, fake news. I don't understand the content of the news. I can understand, how information flow in terms of technology, but I don't really understand the content of news or understanding what exactly is fake and not fake. So if we have to come up with solution, I need somebody that understands journalism, right? So and this is the story of so many different research. So I don't think we need to de-emphasize humanities. I think we have to understand how all of them can be brought together, especially in this very complex and dynamic world.
Let me take you to what might be seen as the ultimate in all of this now, or in the digital world, the computer age and all that. And I'm talking about AI in this point here. There have been fears expressed about the direction in which AI is going. And we've had reports of people who were associated with its development sounding a caveat, saying the world might well get to a stage where robots would now do the thinking for the real good. Do you worry about such?
So I'm a really very progressive person, if you would. I think I had somewhere, I cannot remember exactly where, but I heard that during the Industrial Revolution, a lot of people feared that, with Industrial Revolution, people are going to go out of work and all of that. But I think, as humans, we have that ability to evolve, to morph with, new things that happen to us, to adapt to new things that happen within our society. So I think, AI is no different, or the age of AI is no different from the age of Industrial Revolution. So for us, what I will really kind of advise or suggest is we have to understand the trend and make sure that we're ahead of the trend if you want to stay, in job, or you want to say, in practice, you have to understand what is the trend and go ahead of the trend. AI is not going to stop anywhere soon. It's always going to be there. In fact, it's going to evolve even more. But then this AI is developed by other people, right? AI by itself cannot do anything. You have to have people program it. You have to have people, developing the language for it. So then you could be able to go ahead of that and, find a niche in it. So I don't think it's going to take over the world. It's going to not make people, it can only make people that want to be jobless, but you can go ahead of the curve.
Sometimes you give into the fantasy of imagining that there couldn't be anything beyond all of this. Is it possible to develop anything further where, the computers have just about seemed to most people as the end in itself? Where do you see all of this going, especially in the protection of critical data? I go back to that as we begin to wind down, because I worry that so many of the things the world depends on for smooth running can easily be attacked.
Yeah, so go back to your first question, where is the end? I think as long as the human brain is functional, there is just no end to what the human brain can think about. So there is no end to it. Like, tomorrow is going to be something else. We all know maybe 20 years ago, there were no smartphones. I remember while I was in University of Abuja, that was when GSM came, started. And I remember, we had a friend that had 3310, the big Nokia phone. And that was just, about 20 years ago, right? And then today, we have completely different types of phones. These are just not simple phones, but they're phones that can, they're computers, literally, right? And we could literally do anything with that, device. And so there is no end to that. Now, protection of information, I think we have to strive to do more. We have to come up with technology as things as our technology evolve, we have to evolve with the way we do things. So for instance, before, when we talk about cybersecurity, we only think about network infrastructure, organizational infrastructure. We don't talk about end users. We don't talk about smartphones. But then smartphones came and we started to think about what are ways to protect end user data? What are ways to protect now IoT devices, smart home, smart cities. So we're kind of always thinking, with the technology. But I think one thing that I will emphasize that we do better is to think ahead of the technology so that cybersecurity solutions come ahead of the technology, not wait for the technology.
Well, as a computer scientist, there are two things I'd ask you there. First has to do with computers and the amount of time that humans spend on computers. And the other part of it will come to the aspect of information, where the smartphones have replaced virtually everything. And the thinking that these were things that were developed to enhance the world. In the case of telephony and phones, to improve communication.
Right.
But you see some aspects of these now that have become a source of distraction.
Yeah, absolutely. See, humans are always going to be humans. Everything that has a positive side will always have some negative side,
Homes
right?
now, people are at home and there's no communication among family members.
Yeah, everybody's
people
holding
on
their
phone
phones.
or they're on their computers.
Right.
There's an accident on the road, and rather than call for help, where they have the phones to call, people are busy,
Right.
taking pictures and posting. And
Right.
the bottom line of this is that is the world losing its humanity to the digital revolution?
I can tell you, there is a truth to that, right? We've seen all of these problems are manifesting in our society. And I think there are so many psychological studies that find, this is affecting our mental health and what have you. But there's also the positive side where, before, you don't engage with people thousands of miles away, and now people make friendship. People, marry. People, create businesses and, transactions. And I mean, so many things are happening because of this technology. So how do we improve on ourselves? Like, I'm not an expert in that because I'm not a psychologist, but I think there've been some solutions, for instance, to that where you have, for instance, app that kind of reminds you, about these things to like maybe, keep your phone, you've been using your phone these hours, more this week and less this week. And I think for people that care about their mental health, this is important. For young generation that may be minors, for instance, these are things that their guardians, their parents can try to improve on, can try to say, okay, you have a time limit on your device. You cannot use your device more than 2 hours, right? So that can help, balance their mental health.
On a final note, I'd like to return to you, the person, Aisha Ali Gumbe, researcher, lecturer, scientist. What are your what's the next stage of what you challenge yourself to do? Where do you see yourself next?
I just want to make a difference. I want to make a difference to my society where I live and also my society here. I think I'm an educator, so I care about education. I care about the young generation, and whatever I can do to make a difference in the lives of the young generation in terms of education, that's what I'll be focusing on. I was telling a colleague of mine that, I think I probably mentioned that at the beginning, that I just got tenured on promotion, and what's next? So I told him that I want to do something that, change the way we do we educate young people. And then when the clinic happened, I just hop on it, and, that gives me the opportunity to make a difference. And I'm hoping I'll continue to make a difference in the lives of the young generation in my community in Louisiana, as well as my community here in Nigeria.
That's your driving force.
Yes.
All right. Okay. We'd like to thank you very much for coming on One and One, and we hope that you'll come again some other time so we can keep abreast of your latest work as you pilot the affairs of the cybersecurity clinic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you. And that's our program today. We thank you for watching. Next week, we'll be back with One and One. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.